Hi, everyone. Welcome to another exciting edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. This one is so exciting that there's an entire wall of comics. That's always a good sign behind my guest. And my guest this morning happens to be Rik Offenberger. May I call you Rick? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. That works well.
All right. All right.
Yeah, those are comics I actually published. We published at the end of this Kickstarter, we'll publish 52 comics.
Wow.
Um, we have approximately three covers per comic. Excuse me. Anywhere from two to five covers per comic. So that's everything we've published so far.
Wow. So when does the Kickstarter end? Let me ask you that.
The Quickstarter starts February 1st. It ends February 28th, and we run through the whole month of February.
All right. All right. Sounds good. So listeners would be best to check this out sometime during that time. We'll make sure to
That
get
would
it
that
out.
would be beneficial. Um, you can we have a link on our website, g-man-comics
Hmm.
dot
Hmm.
com, and so you can find it. And as we update for different Kickstarter events, that'll be there too, as well as everything about the comics we publish. This is our eighth Kickstarter. We've been publishing over 5 years for 5 years now. And we tend to group our comics into two different Kickstarters a year.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
this will have five titles in this Kickstarter.
Nice.
And, we've gone up to 11, which is not ideal, but it saves people on shipping.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's the biggest problem with backing a Kickstarter is you're paying almost 60% in shipping on the purchase you just made.
Hmm.
And we've discovered that you can buy five comics and pay the same cost in shipping as if you buy one comic.
Yeah.
And so it makes ours a little more affordable that way, we think.
Love it. Love it. Well, you have quite an impressive roster of creators that are also part of G-Man. So anyone that you'd like to shout out in that way as collaborators?
Well, I mean, we work with a lot of people who have been very, very good to us. Most of them have provided, guest covers for us. I have been a comic journalist for 25 years.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I own First Comics News, and I have interviewed a lot of people and talked to a lot of people throughout the years. I worked at the Comic Buyer's Guide when there was a Comic Buyer's Guide. I worked for Newsarama. I worked for Comic Book Resources, and I did a lot of interviews with a lot of people. And so then when I started publishing, I asked several people who had become my friends over the years to contribute covers. And so we've got a nice array of covers from a lot of people who people may have heard of.
Yes, indeed.
And
Yes, indeed.
we try to do that. This The whole company started. I'm active in Mighty Crusader fandom. I worked for Archie Comics for a decade.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I got the job because I was a fan of the Mighty Crusaders, and we started talking about that. And I was interviewing their people, and I got to know the people at Archie. And so me and a guy named Mitch Kwok were doing a series of mock covers where there was no comic, and we were just pretending as if the Mighty Crusaders had kept going on.
Nice, nice.
And Eric Bennett said to me, "You got to meet Gilbert Monsanto."
Hmm.
And so Gilbert runs something called an arena where he'll draw your character and then he draws other people's characters and then you vote to see who wins the battle.
Hmm.
No actual fighting involved, but it's still kind of fun. And then the winner gets a cover with his character and the other character, they faced off against at the end, as a prize with a mock cover. And so I'm doing this, and Gilbert says, we can make a comic.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
worked at Archie. I know what's involved in making a comic. And I said, no, we can't. And he said, no, no, really, we can. We can break it down. And Gilbert had worked for Wills Portasio in his studio.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so Gilbert did the first issue of the first comic, Simon and Kirby, the Agent, #1.
Hmm.
And while we were doing that, I was working with Alan Fiera on a piece of fan art. And he says, I could do the comic too. And so he did issue #2 while Gilbert was doing issue #1. and that was our first Kickstarter.
Love it. Love it.
Before that, we had done a handbook where we had done just like a who's who style handbook for the three of us and some of our creators in the Shield G-Man Club.
Hmm. Hmm. Nice. So is there a particular set of genres or set of uh, types of characters that you are drawn to as a publisher?
Well, we do superheroes. So
Hmm. Hmm.
it's all superheroes. We do it in a shared universe. Basically, I it starts with the first comic we published, the Simon and Kirby character.
Hmm.
He's an FBI agent, so we call him the agent. And they're in a world where everyone has to register with the government to be a vigilante.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he goes, and so we do a Mission Impossible style deal where each issue has different team members, and he just selects the people who are supposed to be on the team.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so different group of characters get involved in different actions. Now, as it turns out, 30 years ago, I owned a comic shop and I tried to publish a comic called Lynx.
Hmm.
And I was working with one of the artists who was one of my regular customers, and we put the book together, but I got divorced and never published it.
Hmm.
And so then I finally get to publish my own comics 30 years later. So we do a deal with the Kickstarter where you can pledge to have your character in our comic. So as he
Nice.
picks the right people for the team, your character gets to join in too. Has to be your original character. You can't decide you want Spider-Man in our comic.
Right. Right. There would be some royalties to pay there and some
Yeah, exactly.
interaction.
But it does allow people to get their characters and their ideas into print, and secure their own trademarks too.
Hmm.
We also include the character in the handbook, so you get a little who's who page that you can use later, with your own stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we try and make this as fun as possible. And so we were doing this, and my partners, Eric and Jim, I wanted to do a book with them too. And so the second book we did was G-Men 3-in-1. All
Hmm.
three of us wrote one story in one comic. So we each did an 8-page story, and that spun off into more comics. And so, eventually it became large and more unwieldy.
So you've owned a comic shop,
Yes.
you've interviewed comics creators and done comics journalism, you're publishing comics. I'm sensing a theme here. What connected
Oh
you to?
yeah, and I was the public relations coordinator for Archie Comics for a decade, and
Yes.
I was a
Okay.
judge on the Eisner Awards.
So there's a definite theme.
A little bit.
Yes, yeah. What connected you to comics?
My father, actually.
Mm,
When I was little, he had bought comics when he was little, and he enjoyed them, and when I was little, he bought comics for me,
mhm.
and he would read them to me at bedtime. And I assumed that this gave him the chance to read comics again as an adult because he probably felt uncomfortable buying them as an adult for himself in those days.
Yeah.
It was a
Yeah.
different time. And so, we connected through the comics, and I just ended up with a lifetime of enjoyment, and I want to share that.
Yeah, love that. I love that family connection, and I can relate to that sort of like, is it okay that I'm still reading and buying comics kind of thing. I remember feeling that like maybe 15 years ago, um, but I was still buying comics anyway. So it's
Yeah.
nice that that culture has changed a little bit, and kind of the perspective a little bit has changed.
Well, I think that I think it started slowly with like the Superman movie doing well and being more of a cultural phenomenon again. I mean, in the 40s, all adults read comics.
Hmm.
You got
Hmm.
lots of pictures of GIs with comics. You got pictures of, vintage pictures of adults reading comics. And so, you got a lot of pictures of Elvis reading comics. He was a big fan of Captain Marvel Jr.
Yeah.
And then that kind of changed in the 60s when the comic code was established and it became more of a kids thing, and they really pushed it that way.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
don't think that really changed until the Superman movie came and people said, "Oh yeah, they still make comics." and then the Batman movie came with Michael Keaton and did well, and the Marvel Universe did tremendously well. And so you have a whole generation of people who grew up with comics being, part of the mainstream again.
Yeah, yeah. And I also appreciate how so many different kinds of stories, different tones of stories have been told and continue to be told in comics too.
Yeah. Well, there's a wide range of what people do in comics. It's
Hmm.
just amazing how many different genres there were. When I was an Eisner judge, there were millions of comics that I had never actually read on a regular basis, and I thought I read a lot of comics before I did that. I had no idea what reading a lot of comics was about.
Yeah, yeah. Well, great that you're working in the medium, expanding the medium, and what a fun idea for a project to get your characters out there, to get them assembled together, and to celebrate the superhero genre as well, because it's a
Yeah.
very, very cool kind of story uh, type, a little bit of science fiction mixed in, usually some
Oh,
fantasy.
absolutely.
So there's so
Um,
many
uh,
things you can do.
yeah. Jim Burrows, who's one of our partners, he had a whole role-playing game universe that he had put together over the
Yeah.
course of many, many years. And when we put together our superhero universe, I had some characters, I had some backstory, but I didn't have a rich tapestry for the whole world.
Hmm. Hmm.
And we tapped into his universe with all of his backstory, and he's got demons, and he's got a character, demon priest, who
Yeah.
is a demon who literally saw the light, converted, joined the priesthood, and then wanted to try and convert his brethren. He's got a demonic wars, which is like his version of Crisis on Infinite Earth, where the demons came and attacked Earth. And so there's a lot of backstory there. There's a lot of fantasy elements. We do a lot of different things. We
Hmm.
do we do some cute stories. We did some Christmas specials. One of them aimed at kids, one of them aimed at adults.
Nice, nice. Well, I'm curious about where people can go to learn more. If you want to remind us about that information,
Oh,
be
sure.
it social media, websites, all of those kind of things.
Our website is g-man-comics.com. And because the character works for the FBI, the slang term for an FBI agent is a G-man.
Hmm. Hmm.
And we all kind of met in the Shield G-Man Club on Facebook. So it just seemed like a natural. We didn't realize it was going to become a comic company. We thought we were just doing, some fun things, but we ended up publishing. We're on Facebook at G-Man Comics. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and I'm at Rik Offenberger, Rikoffenberger, on Facebook, and you can hit me up there too. And yeah, I'm on Threads too, but I don't see it a lot.
Yeah, yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm over on Threads as well, but it's kind of a
Quiet.
it's a party that's starting. So yeah,
Yeah.
glad to hear that you're in the larger parties as well, and um, glad to see how the project continues to develop.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for the time. Did we miss anything that you want to make sure that listeners know about G-Man or projects, interactions, and things like that?
Well, we've got a Kickstarter starting on the 1st of February. If you want to back us, or if you want to read our comics, so you can do that there. That is the only place we sell our back issues as well. We sell them during the Kickstarter. So if you missed an issue, or if you're coming, you want to see the first issue and you don't really care about the current issue, and you want to just sample, we've got that there too. We try and make sure that this is accessible, but we do it all through the Kickstarter. So, and if you miss this one, we'll be back again in August. And if you miss that one, we'll be back again in February. And we just do two a year.
Mhm.
And so try and make sure that we got something for everyone. And we got a variety of different styles. We got sword and sorcery type stuff. We've got straight superhero stuff. We've got some outer space things going on. We try and make things good for any comic fan.
Love it, love it. Appreciate the work, appreciate the advancing of the medium, and thank you for the time.
Thank you. Appreciate being on the podcast.
Anytime, anytime.